it would find on my Linux machine on whatever day that was, and it's now there. Every time you tried to push that through, it kept trying to kick it back.
Thank you, everybody, for dialing into our webinar today. I'm going to go ahead and mute all the lines. And at the end of the webinar, I will unmute us so that we can go into the Q&A section. So just please hold on for 1 second.
The conference has been muted.
Okay. And Clyde, do you just want to have me push the slides for you?
Yeah, if you could, for the time being.
Okay. Yep, so I just would like to welcome everyone to the Avnet Academy webinar series. Today we have Meeting the Demand for Linux, presented by Clyde Seepersad of the Linux Foundation. He is the General Manager of Training there. We also have on the line Paul Liebar. He's Senior Director of Global Initiatives for Avnet Academy. He will be giving you the Avnet Academy overview, and then he will turn it over to Clyde to start on the Linux Foundation presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Paul here. Paul, if you want to begin.
All right, thank you, Jen. So on behalf of Avnet Academy, welcome to all of you. As a global training provider, Avnet Academy prides itself on having the ability to offer training with real-world experience layered on top of that. Avnet Academy is born of Avnet Services, which is a global provider of technology implementation services, and so we are able to draw from that that capability to, as I said, inject real-world experience into the training that we're able to offer to your customers. We pride ourselves on having that capability both with our in-house staff as well as the partners that we have selected and integrated into our partner network. As a training provider with that real-world experience and that ability to know what it takes to get technology to work, we have a great ability to put together training roadmaps that meet our customers' individual needs. Whether you're an individual building your skills to compete in the job market, or you're a corporation looking to develop the right skills in your staff, that ability to take that real-world knowledge, put it into a training roadmap that helps you develop the skills you need, as well as achieve the credentials and certifications that can validate those skills and give you confidence to know that you're going to succeed. We're able to do that drawing from that real-world experience. As a global training provider, we're also able to deliver the training and the skills development we've identified in that roadmap to a workforce that is spread across different geographies. Many of you have that situation within your corporation where you have teams throughout the world working together, collaborating with each other to implement your technology solutions, and you need training that can be delivered to your staff where they live in the time zone that they work in, so that they're able to build their skills regardless of where they're located. And our global presence gives us the capability to do that. Additionally, we're able to deliver training in a multitude of modalities. With our Linux Foundation offerings, we have a public schedule in North America where you're able to, as an individual or as members of a corporate team, sign up for a seat in a public class, attend that class in person, face-to-face with an instructor, or in a remote online setting. And additionally, if you need to, we're able to send an instructor to deliver a private course at your facility to your entire team. If you are looking to sign up for Linux courses, you may do so through our website. That is academy.avnet.com. As I mentioned, for Linux courses, there's a public schedule up for North America. Within the week, there will be a public schedule up for India. And of course, through that website, you can reach our experts to work through your training roadmap, as well as arrange for private courses as needed. With that said, I'd like to move into our subject for today, meeting the demands for Linux skills in our environment. And I will turn things over to Clyde Seepersad to talk to us about that. Clyde is General Manager for Training at the Linux Foundation, and will tell us about the training and certification that Avnet is able to offer through its partnership with Linux Foundation. Over to you, Clyde.
Thanks, Paul. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to your audience. Maybe just a quick word on the Linux Foundation. For those who may not be familiar, we are the nonprofit consortium behind Linux. Linus Torvalds is part of the foundation, as Greg Groahop and a number of other sort of Linux luminaries. And the way we think about this is, obviously we maintain the Linux kernel and release that, which is sort of the core on the software side. But from the people side, we have multiple initiatives too. So we'll talk today about training and certification. We also do a number of events. We do LinuxCon, Global Linux Conference. We do one version in North America. We have a European version coming up here in 3 or so weeks. And then a number of collaborative projects, which are really where we are bringing together industry representation from different groups to focus on problems that affect everyone and focus on opportunities that everyone can take advantage of. And so the most recent example of this, for those of you who followed the Heartbleed bug, was we put together a collaborative project. We got several $1 million in funding from leading technology companies to invest in software projects that are in danger of becoming orphan. So OpenSSH was an early beneficiary of that initiative, but that gives a sense for the types of things that we do in terms of the collaborative side. And so, we're not just a software foundation. We are increasingly focused on what I call the wetware, the people aspects of this, because it takes all three elements. It takes hardware, software, and people to make systems successful. So Jen, can you toggle to the next slide? And this really tees up in many ways the next couple of slides. The root or core, why we have the agenda that we do on the training and certification side. And it's actually great news. I mean, the talent is needed. You see some of the stats here from, we do a global survey once a year with DICE technology board, and 77% of hiring managers have it as a priority. 9 out of 10 reporting that it's difficult or somewhat difficult to find Linux talent. And this is particularly true on system administrators. And so the people who run, operate Linux systems day to day. And while that's a great position to be in if you're currently a system admin, it's not a great position to be in long term in terms of the health of the Linux ecosystem. And what we're seeing today is there is that shortage of talent, of people who know Linux and can run Linux and have the skill set. And so part of our agenda has been really looking at how do we draw more people into the Linux environment, and then working with partnerships like Avnet Academy to say let's create more reach. Let's make sure we can touch people where they are at the point in time that they're aware of this need, and that could be the entry-level training or it could be more advanced training. But foundationally, the need is there. We're seeing it. It's not localized. It's not a U.S. problem. It's not a European problem. It is, in fact, a global shortage of talent. And so the initiatives that we're doing here and working with Avnet are really around addressing that. You can talk on the next slide, Jen. And it speaks to the benefits if you're currently a Linux professional. 86% citing career advancement, near doubling of the wages. And this was a 2014 report. In 2013, it was actually even more acute. I think the number, instead of being 5%, was more like 8.5%, 9%. And so if you're a Linux sysadmin, you've been on a tear for the last few years here of being able to really be in the cat seat in terms of having opportunities in front of you, which is great. I think our goal is really try to expand that pool and make sure more people are armed with the skills that they need. So if you could toggle forward one, then one of the things in terms of at a high level, it's easy to talk about training and the importance of training and matching the skill set. One of the things that we've noticed over time in the software community in general, in Linux and the open source community in particular, is there's been a lot of focus on what we call DIY, do it yourself, which is basically relying on the individuals to go out there and just figure it out. Download and install the tools, trial and error, use the community boards and the forums, the IRCs to try to find out what the answer is or to try to discover the answer. And that's great if you're a hobbyist and you're working on, you want to crack the code on this. What we're increasingly seeing, and part of what we're increasingly trying to communicate, is the cost in terms of time and dollars. And so the typical, when we look at people who take a Linux Foundation training course, and we compare that to people who are trying to discover the methods on their own and bring themselves up the skills curve, it can be anywhere from 3 to 5 months of advantage that you get from actually being in a training course. And when you think about that in terms of time and speed to market, and obviously when you think about it in terms of dollars, the typical SysAdmin in North America with a few years of experience has a total compensation package in excess of $100,000. So over 3 or 4 months, you're talking about $30,000-$40,000 in lost productivity. If you rely on what has been sort of historical model, which is let people, it's open source, so let them figure it out on their own. You can click forward. So really what we do in terms of our training classes, to the next slide here, is really try to bring that to life in terms of how do we make a difference to that end user or to that corporation that is purchasing the training, enrolling people in the training. So one is up to date, right? One of the challenges in the world of Linux with the kernel releases happening as often and with people developing their own distributions and add-on services is that things do move fairly quickly. And so one of our core challenges is making sure that we're updating the material as things move. And so for those of you who are familiar, the current example with OpenStack and the OpenStack standard, that comes out pretty regularly here, and so every 6 months we're on updating that material to make sure we're keeping up with the latest release. Relevancy, so making sure we're focused on what are the topic areas that people tend to need help on, and what are the specialized skill sets. And then one of the really important things is help with questions. And so primarily we deliver our courses, and certainly all of our more advanced courses, with a live instructor. And the huge benefit, and we get this in our customer feedback, is that having that ability to dialogue with an expert, to bring the material to bear with, here's the environment, or here's the deployment type scenario that I'm using, to your specific environment is really what helps unlock a lot of the value. And so that avenue of immediate help, that avenue of putting the expert instructor co-located with the teams for 4 days, or in some cases maybe even 5 days, is where a lot of the value comes in. And so back to that point of speed to market and getting people up that learning curve quickly, that really is a critical component, is having that live expert instructor. And that's one of the things that we take very seriously as a foundation. So we have end of course surveys. We ask people how we did. We ask them about the material. We ask them about the instructor. And the last data set I looked at, which was sort of year to date 2014, was that our instructor rating was 4.6 on a scale of 5, which is something we're really proud of, and it's something we pay a lot of attention to. We approve instructors at the course level, and so part of our due diligence is making sure before somebody steps in front of a group to teach a Linux Foundation class, whether that's through Avnet or directly through us, that person has been thoroughly vetted to make sure that the users on the other side are having a really excellent learning experience. And you can see the link on the screen there to where the Linux Foundation courses are listed on Avnet Academy. So that really is the core value proposition in terms of the training side of things, is having that up-to-date material and then getting it out to the user group with a seasoned instructor and with a very hands-on curriculum. So the typical Linux Foundation training course will be at least 50% of the times in hands-on labs. And so there's some of the broadcast element where the instructor is sharing the material and covering it, but we try to aim for a majority of it being hands-on experience where you're actually doing, because if anybody who's ever been a SysAdmin knows is that the value is really in the doing and having the mastery of the command line to know what do I need to be doing next, what's the command sequence, what's the structure, how do I go after this. And so having a very heavily practical-oriented curriculum has been a critical part of what we want to do. All right. When we toggle forward, next slide. One of the things on we like to talk about with our system administrators is it's sort of like being one of these medieval knights, right? Your job is to make sure bad things don't happen. And so it's when you're a developer in Linux and you're writing new code, it's a little bit easier to be able to go to someone and say, hey, this is how many code patches I've had accepted, or here's the new feature that I have developed. When you're a sysadmin, a lot of it is about maintenance and hygiene. So, what have you done to prevent a hack? What have you done to prevent a breach? What have you done to keep uptime at 5 nines? And that's a tough thing to do. And so when you're a system admin thinking about how do you prove your skills out in the marketplace, fundamentally what are employers looking for? They're looking for what's your skill set, what can you do? Because a lot of the proof is in the fact that the ship is sailing smoothly every morning, that there's no hiccups, that systems work the way they're supposed to work. And so what I want to talk about next, kind of tease that up, which is how do we make that visible for our system administrators? And what we did is we created and we launched about 4 weeks ago a certification program for Linux professionals. Now we think this is really important because there needs to be a little bit more of a common currency in terms of skill set for Linux professionals and especially system admin professionals. There's a lot of demand today for the skill set, and you see that in the salary numbers. You see that in the job openings. What's trickier and what we hear for employers is how do I know how good this person is going to be in my environment? and this whole idea of measuring the performance and being able to gauge the performance. So if we talk about the next slide, one of the challenges with the Linux certification programs as they exist today is there's many of them that they have a number of constraints. And so if you can sort of look past on the left there, there's some that are multiple choice. Well, multiple choice kind of, A, the answer is visible, so you're sort of picking from among a list, and B, it's not telling me how are you able to actually do the work. And so the one thing we really focused on in designing these new certifications is it had to be performance-based. It had to be at the command line. And the second element on here is this idea of testing centers and having to go to either to a testing center or come to your corporate site and have your exam proctored in person. And that's just a model that's very dated, right? In today's world, with an increasingly global distributed workforce, there's many markets once you get outside of North America and Europe where testing centers are few and far between, and that just doesn't work, right, for your team in Indonesia. And so we really, in addition to making it performance-based, we spend a lot of development time in trying to figure out how can we deliver a high-quality exam 100% over the web. Because that's what the market needs. We need the flexibility of being able to do it as and when I need to, particularly because it's a system admin audience. And these are guys who are on call. They have, they have the stuff that they know they schedule. You have a data center migration, and that's very heavy demand on your time. You got to have the flexibility of being able to schedule when do I want to take this, how do I want to take this. And our solution, if you can talk about the next slide, as we've launched the certification exams, was to say, okay, it had to be performance-based, it had to be available online through a browser, and the third factor is we've made it what we call distribution flexible. And so there are very high-quality programs, in particular the Red Hat certification program, which those of you who have been close to Linux have no doubt are familiar with. It's an excellent program. It is performance-based. It does test all the good skills. The trick, of course, is that if you're not a Red Hat shop, then it's not as obviously applicable to you. And so what we've done with our exam is we've created options. So at launch here, there's 3 options available, one from each major distribution family. So you can pick CentOS from the Fedora family, obviously as a Red Hat clone, Ubuntu from the Debian family, and OpenSUSE. So we have a lot of coverage there between CentOS, Ubuntu, and OpenSUSE. We feel like that we've now given people not just a performance-based, not just an online, but the ability to pick their distribution and be able to demonstrate some skill sets. And because we have a multi-platform, multi-distribution exam, it requires us to have designed very fundamental skill sets into the exam, that the types of things that are translatable across distribution. And so even if somebody has, regardless of which distribution they pick, whether it's Ubuntu, whether it's CentOS, whether it's OpenSUSE, that there's a core foundational level of skill and that it's a performance-based skill. And that's what somebody has ticked the box on if they're coming in with either. And it's a 2-tier program, so the Certified System Administrator is the entry-level tier. So these are typically newer folks, 1 to 2 years of experience. And then the upper tier, we have only 2 tiers in the program. The upper tier is your more experienced system engineers. So these guys have been 4 or 5 years. They're doing a lot of broad network type topics, managing a team. And there's a reason we didn't go beyond this. Other programs have a top tier and architecture to their certification exams. And we stopped short of that because we recognize that as you progress into your career, you're typically going to be getting more and more specialized in a distribution family or probably in a particular distribution. And so what's going to make sense for you as you get beyond that engineering tier, as you get into architecture, at that point, it makes more sense for you to go off and have maybe distribution-specific training or distribution-specific credentialing. And so we really are looking back to the point I made earlier about wanting to expand the skill set that's available and broaden the skill set that is available to the market. We wanted to keep our focus on where the foundational skills. And so the program, as you see here, the 2 tiers really aim for that, the entry-level system admin and the next tier up more experienced engineer, and recognizes that there is a whole other universe of distribution-specific, application-specific trainings and certifications that someone will then want to add on to that as they proceed into their career. Why don't we toggle next? And so how does this all fit together, right? Because part of what we're focused on is this whole idea of bringing talent into the Linux market and growing the talent pool at every step of the way. And so that's not just a single point in time, and the certifications are part of a broader story that we're pursuing in terms of what are we able to bring to the table for sysadmins, really sort of cradle to grave. If you toggle to the next slide. This is an infographic that's available. You can see the URL at the bottom of your screen there, what we call the evolution of the sysadmin. And we really are and I'll step through this here on the next several slides. And what we did is we took a long view that says, okay, there's a bottleneck at the entry level to the system. So what are the types of things that we can do to draw more people into the Linux environment? And then once they're in the Linux environment, in sort of the novice stage you see there, the beak you see to the left is the hobbyist stage, just folks who are downloading and practicing on their own. But when we look at that evolution, what I want to step through here in the next several is to create a picture of the different points in time and different touch points that we provide and that Avnet provides for folks kind of working their way through the ecosystem of being a sysadmin. You can just toggle next. And so I'm going to talk about this as 4 distinct sort of progressive levels. And so level 1 is that new user coming to Linux. And here we have we've made a lot of resources available at no cost, because this is really trying to create foundational interest in Linux and demand for Linux. And so the screenshot you're seeing here is just an example of the knowledge base on linux.com. So in addition to running kernel.org, which is where we make the kernel releases available, we also run linux.com, which is the community site. And there are all kinds of resources on there. There's tutorials, there's discussion boards, there's publications, there's white papers. There's a lot of content that we put out to try to engage the community and make sure that people have access to resources, and that they have low-cost access to resources, because that's typically a big barrier if you're at that point where you're just now entering the Linux ecosystem for the first time. And we looked at that and thought, well, this is great. We have 1 million visitors a month to linux.com. That we're having a lot of success there. And we recognize that in itself was not enough. And so if you talk to the next slide, a second initiative that we launched to pair up with this as sort of that entry-level tier 1 is a massive open online course, which is basically an introduction to Linux course that we had developed in-house. Again, if you just toggle forward one. We developed that course. We'd made it available to certain select corporate audiences. And what we've done starting August 1 is we took that and we made it available on a global college platform called edX, edX.org. They're sort of a kindred spirit to us in that they're also an open source organization. And we worked with them over the course of the summer, and on August 1, we made this course, Introduction to Linux, available. You see the URL at the bottom of your screen. Actually, it should end at 1621. We'll correct that before we send it out. It's on the front page of edX.org. and this is a really great foundational class for folks who are coming new to Linux. Maybe you're coming from .NET or Solaris, or maybe you're just coming into the world of SysAdmin for the first time. So we put a lot of foundational skills in here, and it's been a tremendous success. We're closing in on 270,000 people who have enrolled in this course. We're closing in on 25,000 who have completed it in the 6 or 7 weeks that it's been up. And so that's, putting something out that is globally available, we felt was an important part of that broader mission to draw people into the Linux environment. And we've seen that in the admission numbers. We are past 100 countries from which people have enrolled in the course. Number one enrollment in terms of volume has come from the U.S., but number two has been India. I think number three was Brazil. So huge global interest, speaking to some of that demand of trying to draw people into the world of Linux. All right, so let's toggle next. So you've come into the Linux environment. You're starting to get more familiar with what exists. You're starting to maybe practice on your own system. And taking you back here to Linux.com, where we don't just have entry-level materials. We have a fairly substantial amount of tutorial-type topics, slightly more advanced topics. So you're at that point now where potentially you're actually working as a SysAdmin using Linux day-to-day. And of course, there's other discussion boards. There's a lot of distribution-specific forums. So Linux.com is but one good example of this, where you can get some community-provided content. And that's great for filling specific topics that you might have interest in. If you toggle next. But what we've also done is, at this sort of tier, is put together a very comprehensive course, our LSS 220 course. And this is really geared at taking that sort of newbie SysAdmin to the next level. It's a 4-day, hands-on, pretty intensive, obviously instructor-led, like I alluded to earlier. If you just reading sort of the course description there, much like we talked about with the certification exam, we try to make it multi-distro so that it's very general coverage and not locking ourselves and not locking our students into a distro-specific view of the world. But this is a course we're really proud of. This really builds on a lot of what is in the Intro to Linux, the free course, the MOOC, as we call it. And in fact, we're doing a revision to this material now that gets a little more explicit in referring people back to some of the topics covered in the MOOC, so that we can focus 220 on a slightly more advanced skill set and let people go back. And if they need to get topped up on an individual topic, then the MOOC's there. It's available. It's free. It's self-paced, so you can jump in, enroll, pick a particular topic, brush up your skills, and then jump right back out. And so this is really the premier course in terms of taking that SysAdmin audience to the next level. What it also does, if you toggle to the next slide, is it serves as a really extensive prep for that entry-level SysAdmin certification. So obviously, there's going to be a range of people out there in the world in terms of skill sets. There's some people who are going to be ready today to challenge the exam. The exams themselves do not have any prerequisites, and so if people feel like they're, at whatever point individuals feel like they are ready to tackle the exam, they're welcome to do so. The 220 course, which Avnet offers, in fact, there's an upcoming one on schedule here in early October in Denver, is an excellent prep for getting all that the skill set and that tool set sharpened up and ready to go before you tackle that SysAdmin exam. All right, let's toggle one next. So once people are at that point, they've become LFCS, which is Certified System Administrator. at that point, then we're really looking at folks getting more involved. And so there's lots of different ways to do this, right? There's the community board, there's projects, there's discussion forums. There's lots and lots of ways. And this has been a lot of how Linux has built up. It's just active participation by people in the community, in the forums, giving back, asking questions, answering questions, contributing to open source projects, contributing answers on Linux.com, a whole range of activities. This is typically what we expect to see, right? Particularly for that tier of person who's been in Linux long enough that they're certified, entry-level certification in this case. Really looking for them to get involved, sharpen their skill set, reach out, build that sense of community. Because in practice, as you become a more experienced administrator, you find yourself tapping into that network for specific questions you have, for assistance, for guidance. That becomes a very valuable part of your professional portfolio. If we toggle next, similar to what we had with the entry level, where there's a lot of things that you can do on your own to find answers, find specific things. Our next tier course up. So previously we talked about LSS 220, which is a system administration course, which then serves as a prep course for the SysAdmin certification exam. Similarly, here we're at 230, heavy focus on network management, and similar type thing for the course, instructor-led. And this, unsurprisingly, if you talk about the next slide, then serves as the prep for taking the certified engineer tier. So in both cases, we have a optional prep course, which Avnet covers and provides, that serves to potentially prepare somebody to take the exams themselves. And the exam themselves are, you see there's the URLs in here at the bottom of the screen. They are online. You're able to register. And I know at the end of this session, we're going to provide a coupon code for those who are in attendance who want to go look at these exams. It gives you a pretty significant discount on here. But you go in, you get your eligibility. You have 12 months from the time you register to actually schedule and take your exams. And so we're trying to give people a leeway to make sure that they are adequately prepared for that attempt. They're both 2-hour exams, so they require quite a bit of focus and quiet time, pretty intense 2 hours of working through these performance-based questions. All right, let's toggle next. And I talked about a little bit of this earlier, which is as people get through, the way we envision it is they get through LFCS, which is SysAdmin, they get through LFCE, which is the certified engineer tier. And then there's this whole range of specialization. Then you see the stuff on here: OpenStack, performance tuning, security. This is where folks typically then start specializing and picking particular things. And we're very supportive of folks going out there and picking whatever makes sense for them in their environment. It doesn't, from a foundation perspective, we're not trying to be all things to all people. And so we recognize that there are lots of different ways. In fact, if you toggle next, I have a couple of just examples there of things like Oracle, Red Hat. These are some of the distribution-specific certifications that somebody might actually want to hold both the Linux Foundation certification, and if they know they're working in an unbreakable Linux with Oracle, or they're working in a Red Hat environment, it may make sense to hold both certifications simultaneously. But if you're in the Red Hat world, there's a whole other tier of things like JBoss and OpenStack where you can then continue down that path of specialization. So just to wrap up then, if you toggle next, Jen, we talked about sort of an arc here of people coming in, learning Linux. We obviously have that foundational course, the 220 course, that then tees you up for the certification tier. And then what everybody wants to hear, right? You get a job, you make more money, you progress on into your career. And we're excited to be part of that life cycle. We're excited to have partners like Avnet that are driving the agenda forward in terms of making sure that this material and that the exams are available to the broadest audience possible. Good. Well, that's what I had on slides. So why don't we toggle over and maybe do some Q&A? And Jen?
Yes, absolutely. So I did have a few questions come in, but let me unmute all of the lines.
The conference has been unmuted.
And I'll go ahead and ask a few of these questions and take a pause in between if anyone wants to chime in and ask their own. So the first question, what do I need to take a certification exam online?
Yes, we get this one a lot because it is unusual. It's very, very simple. You need an internet connection, and you need Chrome or Chromium browser, because there's a particular technology we use that currently only Chrome and Chromium support. And of course, you need a quiet place to work, because this is going to be a pretty intense 2-hour session. But there's no plugins. You don't need to spin up your own shell. The entire experience, the proctoring element of the experience. So there is a real live human proctoring the exam who is going to be seeing your screen, seeing your webcam. Your mic is going to be open so they can hear the ambient sounds of your testing environment. But that is all facilitated via the browser. So you fire up your browser, you make sure you have a stable internet connection, and 100% of the exam experience happens there within the browser window itself.
Okay. And what restrictions do I have with the machine when taking the certification exam?
So you really do not have any restrictions that you wouldn't normally face. The experience is really identical to being remotely logged in to any other machine. And so for those of you who are interested, there's quite a bit of detail on the certification program website itself. But you can install services, you can suspend services, you can restart the server. The one thing that you cannot do is access the graphical user interface. The exam itself is 100% at the command line. So anything that you can do at your current command line, you're going to be able to do in the exam experience.
Okay. And does anyone have any questions they want to ask from the audience here?
I've got the chat box open as well in case anybody wants to type something in.
Okay, and then I do have one more question. How much of the training is actually hands-on?
Yeah, so I touched on this briefly. It is at least half. So we tend to have the material sectioned off into chapters, and at the end of every chapter, we have a fairly intensive lab exercise. And so the goal of all these programs is that the candidates are going to be very much hands-on in terms of working, not just listening to the material, but actually practicing and able to get feedback from the instructor on what they're doing, what's working well, what's not working well. And frankly, sometimes the instructors report back on really elegant, creative solutions that people come back with when they're doing these lab exercises that may be beyond what was in the documented solution. So it is a very rich, hands-on type environment.
Great. Thank you, Clyde. And it doesn't seem like we have any other questions, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Paul Lebar for some closing remarks. Paul, if you want to go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to reiterate what Clyde had mentioned. Thank you for attending our conference today. We are going to be sending out a coupon code for certifications. You'll be receiving that as part of the follow-up from the session today. We'll be sending you the link to the recording of this conference, and it'll include the information about the coupon code as well as how to how to log in to use that coupon code, and all the instructions you'll need for that. of course, as I said, we'll be sending a link that has the recording of the session in case there's anything you wanted to review. We also invite you, of course, to share this with your colleagues so that your colleagues are able to see the recording of this session as well. One other thing I would like to mention, if any of you are with an Avnet customer that has Avnet training credits, I do want to point out that, of course, these Linux Foundation courses offered through Avnet are eligible for Avnet training credits. So if part of your overall, as part of your management's training plan, they want to sign you up, or you want to sign your staff up for these classes, and you have Avnet training credits, these are completely eligible along with the other offerings in Avnet's portfolio. So I wanted to make sure that there were no questions about that. And then lastly, if you are an individual, you're able to come to the Avnet website. We had 2 different links in the presentation. Please come sign up. You can, we accept payment by credit card, so it makes it very easy to sign up and get into one of these courses. If the certifications are your goal, the LFS 220 and the LFS 230 that help you prepare for those courses, you can sign up for those right through our website and start getting prepared for those certifications. I think that covers it all. So Jen, I'll let you close this out.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining, and as Paul said, we will follow up with a link to the recording, and have a great rest of your day.
All right, back Jen.